Listen to podcasts of Joe Walsh and Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to sing it?
All I know is the owner of a
lonely heart. You know who's an owner of a lonely heart today? Alderman Ed Burke. After a half century, 50 years, that's longer than I've been alive.
I say if you get through 30, 40 years of corruption, they should just give you a pass.
Well, he was charged yesterday, went to court with his fedora, to court via a taxi, not his security detail that the taxpayers have been paying for.
I'm glad he didn't take an Uber.
Really?
Because he supports the taxi cab drivers who have to pay for those medallions.
So on
God bless you,
Thursday,
Ed
he was
Burke.
charged with one count of attempted extortion. The 37-page criminal complaint alleges Burke used his powerful position as chairman of the Chicago City Council's Financial Committee to solicit business for a private tax firm, Clafter and Burke. Apparently, the complaint alleges that he tried to extort the people who own the Burger King at 40th and Pulaski, right by Laquan McDonald where he was shot. And that he would give them a remodeling permit only if they used his company for tax purposes, because he's got a company that does that. And also, are you ready for this? The complaint alleged that Burke illegally solicited a campaign donation for another unnamed politician from one of the company's executive. Of course, Alderman Burke last night outside his 14th ward home. I didn't do it.
I look forward to trying this case in court. I've done nothing wrong. I believe that I'm not guilty of anything. When I have my day in court, that will be clear beyond a reasonable doubt.
And though the complaint does not name the politician, Bruce, but Burke and mayoral candidate Gary Chico organized a campaign fundraiser for mayoral candidate Tony Preckwinkle.
It's Tony Preckwinkle.
Back in 2017. Oh, Lori Lightfoot knows it's Tony Preckwinkle.
I think she's got to explain to the voters of the city whether or not she was the recipient of that extorted campaign donation.
To sort through all of this, let's welcome back to the program our good friend, Thom Serafin from Serafin and Associates. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good morning, y'all. How you doing?
Well, so this is a big news story here in Chicago because what is going to happen to certain mayoral candidates such as Gary Chico and Tony Preckwinkle?
Right. Gary's been around for a long time, the school board, and been involved in civic life. He's a Hispanic professional. He's got his own law firm associated with everybody. And Alderman Ed Burke had endorsed his candidacy. So where it goes from there, you don't know. There's a lot of relationships in this town. And Alderman Burke, from a society, cultural, and political sense, wove a weave around this town greater than anyone has in the last 40 years. I mean, he has an incredible strength when it comes to penetrating every aspect of the city's life.
So, Tom, you're a guy who handles damage control for people. You think Burke, given the circumstances, has done the right thing, coming out there saying they're not going to find me guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and his attorneys say they really haven't made out a case here? I read the complaint. It seems to me like he was shaking them down, but I'm sure he's got another side.
And the authorities have audio tapes.
Well, yeah, that's
so
what
here
it
we
says.
go
I mean,
again.
we got the ward healer saying, now we're going to play hardball on it, and Burke says okay. They had lunch at with the Burger King people at the Beverly Country Club. There's a lot of stuff here, and it sure looks to me like a pretext. But is he doing a good damage control so far?
Well, I think he's done a very good job. I mean, you just mentioned on the air a few minutes ago when he came, he took a cab back and forth to the federal building. I mean, every little aspect of what he's done here, in talking to the media exhaustively in front of his home and answering the same question with the same response over and over again. I mean, he's actually done what you would do in a crisis communication situation. He's done everything by the numbers. So he's done a good job from that perspective. Bruce, you're an attorney, right? I mean,
yes.
You know this better than anybody. I read that as well, but not as an attorney. But
whoops, we lost you.
In that document. But everybody has their day in court. One thing I don't like, and I've been around for a little bit, is that when somebody gets, this is not an indictment, but if somebody gets accused of a crime, everybody starts jumping ship on him. But yet everybody's wanted to talk to him, and anybody who's done any kind of business in this town in the last 45 years has had to talk to Ed Burke in some capacity.
So he's had too much power. I mean, Congressman Chuy Garcia, listen to this, said this yesterday about the power that he wields and that he's essentially the godfather.
There are many people who have been allies and friends and have benefited from his padrinismo, being their godfather for many years. I think a lot of folks won't sleep very well for the next few days.
He's still going to run for his aldermanic seat. He has not pulled out of that yet, but people want him to step down as the chairman of the Finance Committee because really you can't have somebody who's been charged with a financial crime be in that position. Do you agree?
No, I disagree. I think giving up his elected office, elected by the people of his district, whether or not you agree with the election process or not, he was elected. That's his leverage. To give up that office and then to go to the federal court with no leverage, I mean, that makes no sense. And his opponents, of course, want him to step down. But, that's cheap shots from the peanut gallery as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but he hasn't
been convicted of a thing yet. He's been accused of a crime. That's all. Those are accusations.
Yeah, right. I'm not saying giving up your aldermanic seat. I'm saying stepping down as the chairman of the Finance Committee. Or do you think he should keep that?
That's his leverage. I mean, as long as he's chair of that Finance Committee, everybody who is anybody and anything in City Hall needs to talk to him or a member of the staff. He's got a large staff. To give all of that up and then throw yourself on the mercy of the court is contrary to anybody's human behavior for trying to, protect themselves from the onslaught of the federal government.
Look, don't you think
he's entitled to a defense?
Well, I'll tell you, the feds would be awfully stupid not to have a good case against him. I mean, things have been tried before. I mean, he reminds me of Big Julian, Guys in Dallas. 33 arrests, no convictions. But from East Cicero, Illinois, this is only the 14th ward. Don't you think the feds would be awfully dumb if they didn't have a case? I mean, they got the tapes. It sounds like a pretext. It looks like a pretext. If it walks like a duck, it is one.
The evidence includes wiretaps from his cell phone, email, and other documents. That's besides what federal agents gathered during the raids.
The feds are really going to look awfully dumb if they don't have a case against him.
Bruce is correct. I mean, one of the problems, you had more than 30 aldermen since he was elected the first time in '69, inheriting his dad's seat. As an alderman that had been indicted, and maybe 34. I don't remember the number, but I know there's more than 30 of them. And people have always complained about the feds going after the little guys.
Right.
For Roscoe 5,000 here, 6,000 there. No, this is the big fish. You're absolutely correct. And so you expect a big game here. This is a kind of a Super Bowl of going after the top gun with the federal government here, and the first big case with our new prosecutor downtown. So, yes, you don't do this unless you think you have all the goods that are necessary. But this is not yet an indictment, and I have to beg for your input here, Bruce. What happens, in the next month or so? They say an indictment, maybe in another month. What are they waiting for?
I'm a personal injury attorney, Tom. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But they're hoping. I think they're hoping for some other shoes to drop and people to jump through the hoop. And they're hoping to develop more leads, through this process.
Well, they better have.
We're shaking the leaves off the tree here, folks.
Tom, you know from a PR standpoint, this had better be the goods, and not just trying to get other people to come up with something better on Burke. This in and of itself better be the goods from a PR standpoint,
but this
right?
couldn't have been the first time that he's done this,
right? Am I right,
Tom?
No,
you're right. You're absolutely correct. But the wait for a month, there's always been kind of an informal, unofficial honor amongst all these characters downtown that, you don't do this before an election, 60 days or whatever it is. You wait till after the election. Sure. And, of course, we're looking at the election in February and then the runoff for the mayor in April. So they're very, very close. And maybe they jumped the gun here in order to get things done underneath the wire. But I'm still, after reading everything, I'm not an attorney, but I wonder there's a big gaping hole there that people are waiting for.
Well, let me just ask you, as a layman, as an intelligent man, you read the complaint. it sounded like, boy, this really sounds serious, and it sounds like you got the goods on him. I mean, and I'm not going to hold you to this. Let the evidence come in later, but just your initial gut reaction on that.
My gut reaction is that he's one of the smartest guys I've ever met in this business, and knows all the games, and knows all the players, and knows how they all play. And I'm shocked that they say they have phone calls and wiretaps where this kind of act is going on. I'm really surprised. John Cass kind of has a good column this morning about on the phone. You know, you never talk on the phone at City Hall, maybe in the elevator or you get into a cab, but you never.
Right. Mike Madigan uses a Raven that he got from Game of Thrones.
Well, Madigan doesn't own a cell phone.
Right.
I know. I really thought that he was too smart for this, that he was above this. I mean, considering, too, his wife is an Illinois Supreme Court justice. And she wasn't at court yesterday, but I can't imagine what things are like at home. I mean, he had to surrender his passport. He has to turn in 23 guns that he owns. He still can feel free to move about the country. He can go to his house in Lake Geneva. But what do you think things are like at home right now?
Well, you know,
Ouch.
This is beyond Tom's expertise here. He does not handle PR for domestic
Ann
relations.
Burke.
Well, you remember Heather Blandick and Michael Blandick.
Sure.
You know, besides being an 11th warder and the mayor of the city of Chicago, Heather Blandick took that level, the mayorship, and took it to another level from a society, cultural point of view in town, and really kind of opened a lot of eyes in Chicago. And Ann, and the Supreme Court Justice Ann Burke, she's done the same thing. She's done. You worked with the handicapped and special needs and the Special Olympics. She's done a lot of good in this town with his support and with him at his shoulder. So it's more than just a political couple. It's a couple that's done a lot of good in a lot of different facets of the city of Chicago. Yes, he's an alderman, and yes, he plays tough ball downtown, but this is much bigger impact on the city than just an alderman going to the federal building for the usual situation that more than 3 dozen have done in the last 50 years. So this is going to have a larger impact, and the people that are jumping ship on him now are not necessarily the kind of people you probably want to, go into business with or do deals with.
But do you want to do deals with Ed Burke? I mean, really? Tom, think about what you're saying here.
In the last 45, 50 years in Chicago, you can't find a building, you can't find a business that's moved to the city, you can't find a company like Amazon or anyone who hasn't come to the city of Chicago and sat down with Ed Burke or one of his representatives to find out how the city operates and what's necessary to move into this town. So, I mean, everybody who's washing their hands and saying, I don't talk to him, I don't deal with him, of course, manure. I mean,
right. They have to.
He's in the middle of everything.
Well, this morning, even Mayor Emanuel is asking that he step down from the Finance Committee.
And how do you like Burger King doing the Dean Smith Four Corners and running out the clock on him and never really giving him anything? Of course, the phone conversations are wired.
But when they didn't hire him, he yanked the permits for the remodeling job. I mean, it just seems. I know there's
and at some point,
two sides to every story.
Somebody made a phone call
downtown
because either there's a lot of people probably that have felt that like they were in similar positions, and these people actually did something. They got involved with the people down on Dearborn Street. So that's the interesting story. Who they are, where they come from, and who they represent, and how deep their pockets are. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see who they are and how they represent.
Maybe themselves. Trump did it because Trump had to use Burke. Remember, Trump winds up using Burke, and maybe Trump says, "Hey, why do I have to have this small town rat in Chicago do this kind of stuff? Let's get the feds on him."
No, I don't think so. This has been going on for a while.
Who hasn't used? The number would be very small, but what businessman in this town, of a Fortune 500 company, somebody in this city, who hasn't talked to Ed Burke about
exactly?
Yep.
That number would be very small.
All right, Thom Serafin, we're going to have to leave it here for today. But thank
you, Tom.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, good to talk to you guys.
Thom Serafin, yep, you too. President of Serafin and Associates, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.